Hello, everybody. If you're 45 or older, talk to your doctor, schedule a colonoscopy. Can we see underneath there? Underneath there? Let's go see. We finally got a couple of pumpkins to take. Actually, 3 or 4 of them. 2 of them were doing well. Another one was doing well also until I stinking busted the skin on it. So that other one's gonna be garbage. But the first one I showed you and this one are going to keep growing. So let's see, not too bad so far. We keep it in the shade, it should grow for another month, that's what I need it to grow for a month now before the Fall Fest in Columbus. So they may be there. We'll see. I haven't talked to them yet this year. Usually we supply the pumpkins there. I didn't think I'd get a shot this year. Anyways, let's we're going to cover that back up in a second, but might as well look at some tomatoes. That's the corn, it's doing shitty. Zucchini doing great. Looking beautiful. There should be some down in there somewhere. There's a couple. 3 or 4. There's one that we can pick probably. Yeah, otherwise it's going to be too big by tomorrow. These were all grown with my own homemade nutrients and my own homemade nightcrawler castings. I really should get in here and pull some weeds, but oh, there's a nice eggplant. Anybody that hasn't had those the way I make them, you slice them as thin as you possibly can. Then you dip them in flour with some garlic salt, garlic powder, salt and pepper. And then you dip them in milk. And then you dip them back in the flour mixture again. And fry them to a crisp. Not burnt, but to a brown crisp. They'll get crispy. And eat them warm. They're fabulous. My mom likes to eat them with ketchup. I used to eat them that way, but I'm not a huge ketchup fan anymore. Here's the tomatoes. This is just about right. We're gonna probably tomorrow pick anything that's ripe, and then anything that's in rough condition I'll cut up and freeze, and then anything that's in a little better condition I'm gonna bring them to where I work and give them away. So anybody that's familiar with that information, privileged to know that information, let's say, this weekend you can probably stop up and get some free veggies. Peppers aren't doing much right now. I did pick some, but it's been a rough year for them. They do look really good right now, and they're starting to get some flowers, so I will get a harvest out of them. All right, now we're going to be applying a compost tea today. So I won't be doing it on camera or on video, but I'll show you the compost tea and explain that to you. All right. In there is about 8 gallons of water, a couple of pumpkins, a zucchini, nightcrawler castings, like a pound of nightcrawler castings, about probably a pound of bone meal, 3 tablespoons, probably right around there, of Epsom salt, a handful of mosquito frass, and I captured, or whatever you want to talk, however you want to put it, took down a wasp nest the other day, and there's wasp larvae, wasp bodies, wasp nest in there. A small palmful of my own mineral dust, which is basically natural in my ground gray or blue clay that I dried out and actually like heated it up while it was wet, and it kind of fractured everything, made it into a really, really fine powder. So other than that, what else is in there? I don't think much. I mean, that's plenty. Oh, probably 2 or 3 cups of my fermented plant juice that I made out of flowering plants. The bone meal and the nightcrawler castings are in a micron bag with an aerator in it, and then there's an aerator inside the tank connected to the end of the stick, so it gets to the bottom. It's been 24 hours of a brew, and up to now, and then for the next several hours or whatever, it's you're brewing microbes. Basically, you're trying to build a microbe colony. Right now, that foam is microbe stuff. I would have liked to see more foam, but there's a lot going on in there right now. So, maybe we're not going to see the foam you might normally. But, anyways, that is going to be basically a bloom formula overall. But right now, it's more of a live microbe-rich environment, and that I use more like a protective coating on everything, ground included. So your soil, your stems, your leaves, the surrounding area, very helpful. Inoculate everything. And most important thing to me is any new growth. You want to get that new growth as soon as you can with something biologically friendly and alive to inoculate those new leaves. I did also put some honey in here. That's part of the energy that gets this thing going, to get them microbes going well enough so they can start consuming the bigger particles. And it's my own native honey to this area. I try and use everything native, so I mean, everything's working in concert. I haven't had one issue other than there's some powdery mildew on my raspberry bush that's up by the house, that's in a pot. It's a wild version of raspberries that's kind of congested in that pot. And then there's a rose bush in the front of the house that's kind of secluded from everything in a concrete jungle, so it's not the healthiest thing. I've been trying to limp that along. but there's some vine plants that are in the breezeway between the house and the garage, and those that usually laying on the cement have severe issues with that kind of stuff, and there is not one spot of anything on them. They're bright green. I just harvested a squash off them to test it. Fortunately, it was too early, but it was so big, it looked like it was possibly ripe, but it did taste fantastic. So, was that it now? Later on, as this thing brews for another 24 hours, it'll basically be like more of a nutrient, you know, the bloom. Oh, look here. This is the body of the queen wasp. There we go. That's the body, this torso of the queen wasp. The rest of them are really, really small, but, oh wait, maybe that's not it. Is this it? Here it is. There's the torso on my finger here. Yeah, that's a mosquito, that's an insect frass, so it's gonna do its thing, like most mosquito frasses do. And when I apply it, it'll be through a sprayer that I filter through a Micron bag. You know, these particular sprayers there are pretty easy to keep clean, or to clean out if they do get plugged, but shoot, was that it now? One more thing. I'm going to pause it here for a second. We're going to go look at our Minnesota wildflower. Hold on. This is pretty impressive. Okay, another thing too. This is the acorn squash plant that I was telling you about. There's the barbecue grill. It just grew out of there, out of a acorn squash that I threw up there with some gourds. All right. Okay, so this is a Minnesota wildflower that up until a few years ago I had no idea was here. There's normally some daylilies that pop up here, and this is a daylily spot. You know, in the spring and early summer, these are blooming like crazy. This one here was getting overtaken by two different kinds of what I thought were weeds. One was a weed, and it still comes in here. It's this thing. They look a lot alike, so that's what I thought I was picking, right? But then you got this other thing, okay? That other thing is this plant here, and I thought somebody said it was called a persistent plant, persistent wildflower or whatever. And then some other lady was picking up something here the other day that was put out for free or whatever on whatever they call it, Marketplace or something. And she called it something else from what I heard, and said she was admiring our whatever.